भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने नामस्ते सारस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषाय शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम रामा हरे हरे। All right. So paying my humble obeisances to the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, his disciple, His Holiness Jai Pataka Swami Guru Maharaj, and Temple President, His Grace Nam Nishtha Das Prabhu. So today we are doing the chapter 17, which is called Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the three divisions of faith. So, actually the Bhagavad Gita, has given me the answers to so many questions which I used to always have. I used to think if there is only one God, everybody knows, that there is one God, then why are there so many different religions, and why, one person says he is God, she is God, so many different gods. Why is it so? So in this chapter, Krishna explains so clearly why there are so many types of faith. So actually, what we understand as we study deeper is that religion, there is only one. God, there is only one. And what is religion is dharma. What is the dharma of the Atma? It is to serve the Paramatma. And when you realize that this is your dharma, then you get bliss rather than running after, sensual pleasures and material desires, where you will find that there is no happiness. In fact, when you realize that there is no true happiness in anything material, that is when you begin your spiritual journey. And that is when you realize that this body is actually not who I am. And the first lesson which Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2 is what we start understanding as a first step to our journey into spirituality. So this chapter begins by Arjuna asking, he's going to ask about why is it that there are so many different types of faith. The scriptures are clearly telling us that this is God, Krishna is God, and the scriptures are telling us all the rules. And then why is it that again there are people who create their own religions, they give some all weird names, and they start, I guess, something called Scientology. There's one religion started called Scientology by one of the Hollywood actors, with many people following it. How, then what is it really leading to Krishna? Like, why is it happening? So Arjuna asks that. So basically in chapter 17, there are three parts. First is the principle behind what is faith. And then Krishna will talk about various aspects of lifestyle very systematically. And then he will conclude. So let's see what are lifestyle choices, what are the consequences. So this is a slide which explains how the flow from chapter 16 to 17 happens. So actually, chapter 15, we learned about this inverted tree. And we learned that it has roots going upwards and downwards. If you will remember, in chapter 15, Krishna says that the whole material world is just a reflection of the real spiritual world. And then he explains to us how in the material world, there are roots going upwards and downwards. When we do auspicious and good activities, that is when we are in Sattvagun, we reach up, towards the top, where once you realize that desire is a reason for this reflection, using the weapon of detachment, and you are able to slash, and determination. With detachment and determination, you will cut this tree, and then you'll be able to reach the spiritual planet where we actually belong. Then after this, he explains this tree. He talks about then what are the qualities which elevate us? Hare Krishna. What are the qualities which elevate us, and what are the qualities which bring us down? That means Krishna explains to us what are the qualities that are going to take us up on the tree, and what are those which will lead us, down to the hellish planets. So chapter 16 explains divine qualities, and it explains demoniac qualities, and Krishna also establishes that faithful followers of Shastra, the importance of Shastra or scriptures can never be, emphasized more. It's always less. That important are scriptures. Only when you start abiding by and trying to understand what the scriptures are saying, are we taking to the descending form of knowledge. With our limited material senses, we cannot rely on the ascending form of language. And we have to have a certain degree of faith, not certain degree, absolute faith in the scriptures. Only then we can understand. So Krishna, now Arjuna will be asking, to which category does such a man fit who follows with some faith? They have faith, but not as per Shastra, something other than Shastra. That kind of person, is he in goodness, passion, or ignorance? And where is such a person situated in this tree? That is what Arjuna is going to ask. In more detail, what are the parts of this chapter? Arjuna's inquiry about unauthorized worship. Then Lord Krishna answers the three modes determine one's faith. Now, did we actually really know till we read the Bhagavad Gita that a person's faith is also determined by his mode? We never knew that, Krishna is actually explaining it so clearly that the different kinds of faith that we see around us is all because people are in different modes. Some of them who have more Rajogun will follow one particular faith. Those who have more Tamogun will follow another. For example, some religions are okay with you eating the cow also. They're fine with it. They are in total Tamogun, right? That kind of mode, that's a Tamogun. You cannot eat a cow, right? But only when you reach Sattvagun, can you come to this, mode where you come to the faith, which tells us that it is not right to eat, in any non-veg, in fact. So I'm just sharing the other examples how Krishna is explaining that even faith is based on different modes. And then he talks about food. Food is in three modes. People will take to different food based on the mode which is predominant in them, which they themselves have cultivated in their previous birth. For example, a person may be, in the faith which clearly tells them that, you are going to incur a lot of sin if you eat animals. And then he doesn't eat it. But then, for example, he is born into the faith and then he cannot stop his desire to eat and he eats. Then obviously Krishna says, okay, you're actually more into Tamogun or Rajogun, and then you won't be born into a transcendental family again. You'll be born into maybe some other faith which supports that. So that, Krishna allows. Earlier also in chapters, he has said he allows you to have faith in whatever you want, whatever pleases you, because Krishna gives everyone independence of choice. But the consequences, he will not interfere at all. Whatever are the consequences you have to bear based on your choices, you have to, he is neutral. Like I told you the example of a judge. A judge may listen, he will pass on the judgment. Some may be hung, will have to be hanged. Some will be in prison. Some of them will get probably lots of lump sums of money. Some will be released. All that is being done, but he is neutral. He is just based on his judgment, he is passing. Similarly, Krishna gives Maya all the power to do these, keep people under the control of the three modes. And he has put demigods in different administrative positions, and it's all happening perfectly. There is no mathematical miscalculation in the results that you are incurring at any point of time. Which family you're born? Are you born a male or a female? Are you born into a rich or a poor family? Are you born into a meat-eating family or into a family which is already sattvic? Everything is decided by your previous desires, the modes which you cultivated by yourself in your previous birth. So there is nothing that you can grumble about or complain, because you have actually got it all on your own. And even now, if you have come to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling you how to live your life now. What are the three modes? And he keeps telling us, try not to, if you're in Tamogun, okay, fine, you're in Tamogun because of whatever your previous karma and your modes. Try to move to Rajogun. If you're in Rajogun, try to shift to Sattvagun. Why? Because Sattvagun is the one which is least affected by Maya. All this we had discussed yesterday also. And when you have reached Sattvagun, it becomes easier to move to Shuddh Sattvagun, which is what is our aim of human life. After many, many human births, only do we come to realize that this is our actual purpose, and only this, that is pure devotional service where we don't incur any more karma. There is no karma done, which we have to be born again to get all the results of pious activities and be born in some heavenly planets and enjoy it, then come back. Nor will we do any vikarma where we are forced to go and suffer in more hellish planets, and then when we finish the quota of sin that we have done, come back into the earth to again start from zero. So, there is all this big circle like a Ferris wheel where you up and down will stop only and only when you start doing akarma. And that is only and only possible when you become in a sattvagun. So there are fates which are saying, okay, tamogun fates, rajogun fates, but only when you come to a sattvagun fate are you, even that is a jail. It's like a first class jail, second class and third class. I remember when Mataji in the class was saying it's like chains. It's like having an iron chain. Tamogun is like you're having an iron chain. Then when you're move up to Rajogun, you're having the silver chain. And when you're in the Sattvagun, you're having gold chain. What is the difference? It's anyway all chains. But only when you have the gold chain, it becomes easier to move to the highest plane, which is no chains. When you're in Shuddha Sattva, no chains. You become liberated even within this body. When you realize, in fact, from any mode, it's not that you have to go by the ladder. For example, Krishna has given us a ladder. He has told us that you can start with, from Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then you can do Dhyan Yoga, Gyan Yoga. You can gradually come and elevate yourself to the Bhakti Yoga in small steps. There is the yoga, the Ashtanga Yoga. And then you can finally, after many, 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 many births and all, you can come to Bhakti Yoga. But he tells us very clearly, from any position, any place in the Varnashram and any position, you can straight away go up and reach the top simply by understanding the message of the Bhagavad Gita, which is talking to us about Bhakti Yoga throughout. Although the first 6 chapters are about Karma Yoga and the second 6 chapters are about Bhakti Yoga and the last 6 chapters Jnana Yoga, everything actually is, basically telling us that it is ultimately Bhakti Yoga which he wants us to, where there is no more karma and vikarma. We have to only have akarma. After foods, he talks about sacrifices. 3 kinds of sacrifices, 3 kinds of austerities. In fact, before he tells us about austerity in 3 modes, he talks I love these 3 words, these 3 sets of verses, that is 17.14, 15 and 16, which talks to us about the 3 kinds of austerity, which I think we should all remember always. Then our life becomes much easier. And then he talks about charity. Charity is also very interesting. Sometimes, before I was into this Krishna consciousness, I did not read Gita or understand it from a devotee. I never understood that charity also has 3 modes. Some people who do charity, I know so many great people. I used to earlier think, wow, but now I know the great people who give such a lot of charity, and then they're taking photographs. You can see them taking selfies, and they are showing in the publicizing. They are so happy that they have done such a big charity. They are doing charity in the Sattva Gun, and they will have to get the pious results and be born again simply to enjoy the pious the result of the pious activity they have done. We don't want to come back. So then we don't do charity in the Sattvagun, neither Rajogun and Tamogun, forget it. We don't want to do charity in Rajogun and Tamogun. But we should try to do charity, where we are doing it in complete Krishna consciousness so that we don't have any more karma or vikarma binding us. We become free from bondage. And the chapter ends beautifully in an understanding of what is Om Tat Sat. And then Krishna talks about how sacrifice, charity and austerity should all be offered to Supreme. Om Tat Sat. We offer everything to Krishna. That was a long introduction. So let's try and move on now. 17.1, Arjuna's question. Oh Krishna, what is the situation of one who does not follow the principles of scripture, but worships according to his own imagination? Is he in goodness, or is he in passion, or is he in ignorance? Because these people who create their own religions, like the Scientology, I forget the name of the famous Hollywood actor who has done this, or there's even religion called Flying Spaghetti Monster, and so many religions. A group of people get together, they start meditating, and they get some results, and a little element of some yogic power or something, or they decide this is giving us a lot of peace, and they come together, they start something on their own imagination. So let's see what Krishna is going to reply to this. Krishna is saying, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetitam Shrunu. Shrunu, listen. Krishna goes on saying, listen. It's very important to listen. Some people, the moment they start hearing something they don't want to listen, they'll run away. So Krishna says, no, listen. Listen to me. The Supreme Lord says, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: goodness, passion, or ignorance. According to one's existence under the various modes, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So many times clearly Krishna is telling us that the faith is only based on your mode. Next, he talks about the aspects of lifetime all the way from 17.3 to 22. He's going to talk to us about faith, which you already heard. Then he's going to talk about food, then about rituals, conduct, how we should conduct our speech, austerity of speech, of mind, all this we're going to see, and of body. Let's look at the three brothers, Vibhishan, Ravana, and Kumbhakarna. Right? Ravana, he asked for immortality. All of these demoniac people, they don't, they envy the Lord. They don't like to bow down to the Lord. They don't want to think that this Lord is the one who is all powerful. They want to be all powerful. So they will end up doing all kind of, austerities which are not prescribed in the scriptures. Ravan did so much of austerity and cutting off his heads and all, which are not at all prescribed in the scriptures. But then nowadays in Tamogan, people will say, wow, Ravan, he did so much of austerity. Austerity he did, but what kind of austerity? Austerity which is not prescribed in the scriptures. That is why the demigods become pleased and they give him kind of boons which ultimately become a trouble for them only. So when Brahma said, I can't give you immortality because I myself am not immortal. So by now, if you're into reading Gita lately, you would have understood that even the position of Brahma or all demigods is temporary. They're all positions only. They will all, have to undergo birth, death, old age, disease, or whatever, the whole steps. And then there'll be somebody else, some other soul, which is, in a high position of service to the Lord, who will take up that role. So this is all temporary, even they, because in the material world, there is death for even the demigods, except Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is actually an extension of Lord Vishnu, except for Lord Shiva. All other demigods that we talk about are all positions. So when Brahma said it is not possible to give you immortality, then Ravan asked for invincibility and immunity from the Devata, Rakshasa, heavenly spirits, serpents, and wild beasts. But he was so powerful, as an Asura, he was so powerful, he never thought that a man can kill him. He never thought that a human being can ever kill him, because human beings are so weak compared to his demoniac strength. And that is why Lord himself is, incarnates as a human being, so that Ravan's, a very wicked kind of rule and his arrogance, everything is put to an end. Now, what does Kumbhakarna want to ask? He is asking for, he actually wanted to ask Indra's throne. And Indra knew that. He knew that Kumbhakarna wanted to actually ask for Indra's throne. So what did he do? He approached Saraswati Devi and asked her to make some alteration in the way he says it. Instead of asking Indra, he says Nidra. He says, I want Nidra Sena. I want to be in a state of sleep. And instead of asking Nirdevatvam, non-existence of devas, he asked for Nidravatvam, which means continuous sleep. So the boon was granted, and then Kumbhakarna realized, oh my God, look what I've asked. He asked Brahma to undo the boon, but it can't be undone. The boon given once cannot be reversed. So I said, okay, fine, I'll just reduce it a little. You can sleep for 6 months, and then when you get up, you can have one full day of eating, and then you can again go back to sleep for 6 months. So that is what happened to Kumbhakarna. What happened to Vibhishana? He was an unusual Rakshasa. He was also a brother of the same demon family, but he revered dharma, he revered righteousness. And Vibhishana used to he prayed that I want to be a person who upholds dharma. And Brahma granted his prayer. Now, can any one of you just tell me, these three brothers are all three in three different modes. Can you tell me which are the modes of each one? Anyone?
Vibhishan is in goodness, Mataji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sattva-gun. Vibhishan is in goodness.
Goodness and passion is in Ravana, and
Yes,
Kumbhakarna is in goodness.
yes. Kumbhakarna is in Tamogun. Absolutely the kind of thing he was going to ask also was, totally madness. He was, the Tamogun people are mad. Yes, very nice. So this is how within the same family itself, you have people of three different gunas. So what are we? Each one of us are a sum total of all the choices that we make every minute. Now, what are the choices we make in terms of eating, sleeping, everything? The choices we make us. Every minute, the way we are conducting our life is deciding our next birth. So we need to take this seriously. The Bhagavad Gita is something really important, and I never fail to stop thinking why it's not being taught in children. Okay, let's look at this. In 17.4, Krishna says, men in the mode of goodness, they worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion, they worship the demons. What are the demons in this world? The different politicians or the different bosses. People, instead of praying to the gods, they're literally bootlicking their different demons who are taking charge and creating havoc, and the atheists and people around them. You can find people literally thinking that the netas who are giving them, whatever, are the gods, and they worship them and do anything wrong for them. It is like, that is what happens to people in the mode of passion. They can't differentiate. They go and worship the demons of the world. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, they go and worship ghosts and spirits and try to actually do things which are hurtful to others. So I don't know much about this, but I've heard that there are a lot of different kind of prayers and stuff which is done in the midnight, where you're actually aiming to cause destruction to somebody whom they think has caused destruction to them. And so it's like one big, hell actually. They're doing all sorts of things in the mode of ignorance, and in fact, they have to be, later on Krishna will explain to us that they will have to be born along with the ghosts and spirits, people who do this kind of job. And those who are, going to be doing kind of bootlicking of all these demons and worshipping them, and absolutely with no understanding of what is their real purpose, absolutely no understanding, just running behind more money, more fame, more, I don't know what. Now I'm saying this, but probably in all our previous births we must have gone through all these things. So it is easy for us when we have read the Gita. Even then it's so difficult to actually put it into practice in our life, so it's not easy. Only the men in the mode of goodness are the ones who start by worshipping the demigods, and slowly they will rise up and understand that Krishna is a supreme Lord. That comes in the Shuddha Sattva Gun, in the higher, the one which is higher. So these are the different representations of different kinds of worships which people do. So here we can see that those who worship the ghosts and spirits, there are ghostly planets for them. They go there. Those who worship the demons, either they go to hell, or they will have to come back on the earth in, whatever, based on the karmas that they have done, they have to get bodies like that. Those who worship the demigods, they go and enjoy in the heavenly planets of those demigods, and then they enjoy only as far as the amount of pious activities or karma that they have accrued or accumulated. Then they have to come back to the earth. And those who will start understanding the glory, or the that you actually, human being is born to worship the supreme Lord and serve him. That is when they reach Krishna consciousness. When they realize Krishna, only then can they reach Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka, from where there is no return. Krishna tells us so clearly in the Bhagavad Gita that all the demigods are in the material world, and they all have heavenly planets. The material world has so many heavenly planets, and the earth and so many hellish planets. So if you look at the Goloka chart and you listen to the lectures related to Goloka chart, you can see the scriptures are so clear. And you want to accept the descending form of an instruction, because if you realize that that is the only way to really understand the truth, then you're on the right path. So what should we do? We should try to overcome all the three gunas and be in the Shuddha Sattva, because we then understand that the Supreme is one, and his name is Krishna. Of course, Krishna says, I come in so many different forms. You can call him Rama. No problem. Krishna and Rama, one and the same. Similarly, Krishna comes in so many different forms. His Purnavatar, that is when he comes in exactly the same transcendental body as his original form, is only Krishna. So, and then there are so many other forms, like Narayana. There is, these are all different forms. The more you study scriptures and you read Prabhupada's books, the clarity will be more and more. I am still in the process of reading more. So I think that, I shouldn't share more till I'm in a position to explain better. But I think this is good to understand that we should try to aim for Shuddha Sattva, because by definition, there can be only one supreme. Don't get shortchanged. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Once you have reached the Bhagavad Gita and you can understand this, don't, go settle for less. And how do we worship the Lord? We worship the Lord through deity worship. Why do we do deity worship? Because Krishna says that he comes in the form of the Vigraha. So we have the example of mailboxes. Suppose you go and pray to just any, or you put a letter into any box which is just kept on the road. Will the postman come and take the letter and send it to whoever you have written the letter for? Just a box on the road. It won't. But if you go and put it in the right box which the government has put, or the post offices have put, and then the postman comes, collects the letters and sends it to the right destination. Similarly, Krishna says that these Archa Vigrahas, these deities, once they are installed in the proper manner as they should, following the scriptures, then they actually act as, the God is there. The messages, the things that we communicate, it reaches Krishna. The food that we offer to these deities, Krishna accepts. He says in the Gita, I accept. So that is why the deity worship is considered to be the highest, because now you have accepted Krishna as a person. And then you start learning more and more from the Gita and Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and so many different books, especially the ones written by Prabhupada or all the different Gauriya. Since we are into this line, there's so many beautiful books written by them. So you can start reading them and understand them better, because the more you learn, the more that even the little bit you start enjoying the taste, you want to know more, right? It's like dil mange more. So now again, we are coming back, one God, why many religions? As a natural instinct is different based on the mode. That's the reason why there are so many religions. The essential message, however, is the same. Like I told you, that religion is actually the same. It's a faith which changes based on the mode. The details vary depending on the audience. Some of them do take you. Actually, if any religion is telling you that there is a God, God is supreme, your duty is to serve the God, your duty is to be an instrument of the God, then that religion is correct. They are right. Anything else, if they can't say that there is a God, that is not a religion, because then they're taking you away from the truth. Now, in 17.5 and 6, Krishna says that those who undergo severe austerities and penances which are not recommended, like I just said a while ago, they're performing it out of pride, egotism, lust, and attachment. And they're impelled by passion, who torture their own bodies. They are called demons. Now we know. Sometimes, we hear people who think, wow, the Ravana, I have seen many people who are like, wow, Ravan, he's so great. He didn't touch Sita. What touched Sita? He can't touch Sita anyway. It was not even that Sita which he brought. The real Sita was not even the one he brought, because Sita belongs to the Lord. No one dared touch, right? So then, but the very fact that he lusted for her is enough, for a distraction. And he had many other, atrocities. He was just doing a lot of atrocities. So then, it is only because of the people's tamogun or rajogun that they are able to look at demons and looking at their favorable points and praising them. So, sorry, what happened? Right. Next, let's look at foods. I think foods, we know it's very simple. Foods in the mode of goodness are those which increase the duration of life, purity of one's existence, give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. And such nutritious foods, they are sweet, juicy, fattening, and palatable, like, with ghee and stuff, and they're nice and sweet and freshly made. Whereas foods that are bitter, sour, salty, pungent, hot, spicy, dry, they are liked by people in the mode of passion, like the golgappa or whatever. Such food causes usually pain. After that, you have to eat lots of it, you'll get acidity, distress, and then you get even diseases. Food which is cooked for more than 3 hours before being eaten, which is tasteless, stale, putrid, decomposed. Any living thing, if you just cut it, of course, even vegetables, but meat, the moment you cut it, it starts decomposing. Even vegetables, for that matter, they start decomposing. But the kind of stench which comes, people still like it. They just add a lot of onion, garlic, and they like it. So they are in the mode of ignorance. So here we can see, this is a nice, I think, a Kerala Sadhya with all the lovely food items, all vegetarian and with different flavors, fruits, fruit salads. And this is the spicy, hot ones, which the people in Rajogun really enjoy. And then we have the ones which are kept for long. Some, you can look at this picture. There are worms coming out of the cheese and then they're enjoying that. They think that is very relishable because we are in the Tamogun. You are what you eat. So just be careful about what you eat. Whatever habits you have developed so far, once you know that I need to move to Sattvagun, you can gradually, you won't even need to try. If you start chanting and reading, slowly you will come to Tamogun in all aspects of your life. That's what happened to me. I was a non-vegetarian, but with the constant association with devotees and chanting, it was very simple. I didn't even realize that I had transformed. So you get home after a long day, you see these food on the table. And which one are you going to eat? Which one is going to gross you out? How are you going to choose the food you eat, even if you're famished? So this was an analogy for lust and love. Now we are not vegetarians. Now in ISKCON movement, or in fact, ISKCON movement is basically followers of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, which is the word of the Lord. We believe in prasada, eating prasada, because in chapter 3, Krishna clearly says that if you don't eat food that is offered to me or even to demigods, any demigods, then you are verily eating sin. That's clearly said. So then we need to offer what we are eating. And of course, Krishna has only sattvic food. And when you're preparing food for Krishna, bhoga for Krishna, you cook with a good consciousness. You're putting all your love and devotion, and then you're doing the correct mode for offering. You're honoring or Krishna Prasad, and the results of taking Krishna Prasad is you get Krishnatized. You get Krishnized, and you basically become Krishna conscious, and your consciousness level rises. I had shown you the levels of consciousness. It reaches the highest consciousness where you're in bliss. Of sacrifices, that sacrifice performed to duty and to scriptural rules and with no expectation of reward is of the nature of goodness. Sacrifices basically we have in different yugas. Look at this story. I think we don't have time. I think you must be knowing the story also. This is a story of Bhasmasura, where he did a lot of severe austerities and he pleased Shiva, and then he says, I want a boon that whoever head I touch, they are going to turn to ashes. And Shiva grants the boon, and then he says, I want to try it on you. And he runs after Shiva. And he wants, some people, they do such a lot of severe austerities just to get something which is stupid in the nature, in the mode of ignorance. They ask for things not stupid. Actually, they want to, injure others. Their aim is so much is a strong passion that I must injure others. So, demoniac are they that they will do austerities to get different kinds of, abilities to destroy others or cause trouble to others because he enjoy that. And he was running and running after Shiva. I imagine he was running, and at last Vishnu, Lord Vishnu had to come and help, come over there and help. And he took the form of Mohini, and he by dancing he got him to touch his own head, and then he himself turned to ashes. So that is what happens when people do sacrifices in the mode of ignorance. So when you're doing any sacrifice in the mode of goodness, it is out of duty. You don't have any expectation. I hear of people who do things out of duty, and then they'll say, I did this. The moment you start talking and you're expecting something, it is no more in the mode of goodness. You expect returns means it's shifted to passion. If you expect no return, only then it stays in goodness. Anything that you're doing in the proper time and doing it for a worthy person, that is goodness. If you do sacrifices simply for enjoyment, or you do it sometimes, you do in a grudging mood, why do I have to do this, even that is considered to be sacrifice in the mode of passion. And if you're doing sacrifice in an impure place, improper time, unworthy person, there's a drunkard there, he's begging you, I want to buy alcohol, and then you give him, you also actually have to share the sin that he is incurring by having alcohol. You also have to incur a part of it, because you are the one who has facilitated him to take more of it. So whenever you do sacrifices for, even charity will have a similar rule, for someone who is impure or they are at an improper time, then it's in the mode of ignorance and it will have consequences. Now austerity, I told you that I love these 3 verses. He's going to talk about what is austerity of body, what is austerity of speech, and what is austerity of mind. And then he will talk about what is austerity done in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So let's quickly look at them. First, Krishna says that austerity of the body. How will you, use your body to do austerity? That is basically you will worship the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, your superiors, like your father and mother. You will do Dandavat Pranam. You will be ready to bow down. You'll be very clean. You'll take effort to keep your body clean. You'll be very simple. You'll follow celibacy. Krishna doesn't say that don't have sex. He says sex you can have with your wife, no illicit sex. And you can have it when you're going to procreate a Krishna conscious child. And not just like animals, just doing it for nothing, just like that. That is, he doesn't approve of that. He clearly tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that when you do it to get a Krishna conscious child, it is in fact, he says, I am that kind of sex. I am that. Anything which is in superior mode, it is he says. And non-violence. So when you use your body for non-violent purposes, all these are austerities of the body. Next, Krishna will explain. So self-torture, here we can see that therefore, if you're torturing yourself, you're threatening others or torturing others who get in the way, or some people even committing suicide, these are all detrimental. It's not the right thing to do. What is austerity of speech? This is also really nice. You have to speak truthfully and you have to speak only things, you have to really be very alert. You speak only things which are beneficial. Sometimes, the truth may not be beneficial, in which case you won't say it. There is another story. If there is a little bit time, I can say it. So there's another story also where there was one sage, he was sitting and a man came running and said, can you tell me where is this other person he's looking for? And this person, he thought, I'm a very truthful person. I must be honest and point. Although he knew that this man who's running after this person is actually wanting to kill him. And then he shows the proper direction. And then the fellow goes and kills the other person. And then, actually he incurs sin. And he says, why? I was actually only speaking the truth. But for speaking the truth also, there is a condition. You have to speak only what is additionally also beneficial for others. And you avoid any speech that offends or that can cause damage. You are very careful with your speech. That is, very careful with your tongue. So that is why people who recite Vedas or chant, the Lord is sitting on their tongue. And then what happens? Krishna takes control of every sense or every part of our body to the degree to which we surrender to him. So once we start chanting, you will find that you won't be able to speak things which are hurtful to others. You will have it, you'll have the austerity of speech. All these austerities, you don't have to struggle or work hard. It just happens once you start developing Krishna consciousness. It's actually, it's a joy, basically. You will come to know when you keep chanting. Not that I have reached there at all, but I'm just telling you, I'm just beginning. Next is austerity. Austerity of speech this is just a summarizing one. If you're in the mode of goodness, you'll be very truthful, pleasing, and beneficial. Those who are in the mode of passion, they will use their speech to be very manipulative, or they will use their tongue only to gossip, or for their selfish needs. Have you, come across people? I have come across many. The moment they speak, that, what is their intention. You know that they're actually not meaning what they say. They're being very manipulative. In a meeting also, you can find some people, who are actually speaking and you know what their real intention. You can feel it. You can sense it. They're very manipulative. They're not straightforward. Everything they speak, there is some reason, either to get something back or something. And those who are ignorant they will be openly lying. They don't mind lying. They'll agitate others. They will harm others with their speech. They will cause a lot of hurt. They don't care. And those who are in Shuddha Sattva, they are the best. Why? Because they will only enjoy singing the praise and the glories of the Lord. All the time, they were 24/7. The only thing that they want to talk about and discuss is Krishna. That is Shuddha Sattva. Now you have to apply these sound filters and try to figure out whether what you're speaking is true. Is it pleasing? Is it beneficial? Now, austerities of the mind. This is even more subtle. What are the austerities of the mind? Person whose mind is in Sattva Gun, he is generally very satisfied. So, sometimes when I feel very anxious about something, I immediately understand, oh, actually I'm in Rajogun. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to feel anxious because Krishna is in control. The moment you are, you reach Sattva Gun, you start feeling very content and satisfied. The moment you start feeling dissatisfied or anxious, you know that I'm not in the mode of goodness now. And if you're feeling bewildered, illusioned, and confused and lost, you can be sure that right now your mind is in the mode of ignorance. Now, you have to remember also this, these modes keep changing, right? All the modes are trying to get your attention. They are constantly trying to, be the one to lord over the other two modes. And the mode you feed, whichever mode you feed more, that will be the dominant one within you. The ignorant person is believing I am the body, and he does everything for the pleasure of his body only. Let's look at the next verse. And Krishna says, and serenity, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purity of thought are the austerities of the mind. I think we already did that. Now, this is a story of Vyasadeva and Sukadev Goswami. So, Sukadev Goswami is a son of Vyasadeva. And actually, what happens is, there's a story behind this. When he was born itself, he was 16 years old. So, he's all naked. Okay, and there's a reason for that. He was very afraid to be born because he was afraid to be, he knew that this world, the Maya in this world is so strong. And he was already in, an elevated person, but for some reason, he had to take birth. And he was born as Vyasadeva's son. And as soon as he was born, he starts running away because he doesn't want to be disturbed by Maya. And as he's running, his Vyasadeva is running behind him, and they come across a group of ladies who are taking bath in a lake. So this boy, 16-year-old young boy, is running naked, and they don't mind. They're just continuing to take their bath and doing their thing. But behind, as soon as Vyasadeva comes, they quickly come out and cover themselves. Father is surprised. He's saying, my son, who's so young, and he is running naked, and you don't even bother. But when you see me, you're all covering. So he says, obviously your son is absolutely innocent and pure. He has, they know that they could sense that his son is absolutely pure, very pure. And he's the one who later on explains the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So that is, the kind of difference that the result happens when you're in different modes. Now here we have this, in 17.17, Krishna talks about the threefold austerity practiced by men whose aim is not to benefit themselves materially, but to please the Lord, is in the nature of goodness. So now he's talking about, austerity in the mode of goodness, and then austerity in the mode of, rajogun. That he says that those people who do ostentatious penances and austerities perform just to gain respect. If they do special austerities just to, I want more respect in the society, I want more money, or I want a lot of, asking for things, that's all in the mode of passion. And that is not stable or permanent, because nothing in the material world is stable or permanent. And those penances and austerities which are performed foolishly just to torture, we have seen many examples now, they are in the mode of ignorance. Then Krishna talks about, what is he going to talk about? The gift which is given, charity, at the proper time and the proper place to a worthy person without expectation of return, is charity in the mode of goodness. And like I already explained a while earlier, those who are doing charity for some return, or for a desire for fruitive results, they want to get 10 100 likes, or they do it in a grudging mode, all that is charity in the mode of passion. And charity done at an improper place, we've already done this, and given to unworthy persons without respect and with contempt, is charity in the mode of ignorance. You can see here, this man is actually wanting drugs. I need money. Weed is a drug, and he wants that. He's saying help, and people will be like, oh, poor fellow, and they give him money. That's in the mode of ignorance, because they know he's going to use it for a wrong purpose. The best charity is in the highest one, the Shuddha Sattva place, from where you give charity in Krishna consciousness. You know that actually the world needs Krishna consciousness, and you give your money to the temple, or you do charity to people and through the temple, or you just offer it to Krishna and you do whatever you're doing, that becomes Krishnatized, and then you don't have to bear either the punya karma or papa karma. Nothing will affect you. I think the story of Nriga also we had done earlier. So now let's look at this. Use all the resources to enhance the mission of the Supreme. That is the best charity. Not only resources, even the talents. You can see this person here, he's painting. Your abilities, everything you keep on doing for the pleasure of the Lord. And trust me, it's given in the scriptures, when you please the Lord and your focus is in pleasing the Lord, the first person to be pleased is you. More than anyone else, you are the person who will get that permanent happiness. So we come to the last section, where Krishna starts speaking about Hari Om Tat Sat and how we should offer everything to the Supreme Absolute. So in 17.23, Krishna says, from the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahman. They were uttered by, sorry, by the Brahmanas when they were chanting the Vedic hymns, doing sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So Om means Vishnu. Om actually represents the Lord himself. He says, I am the word Om in the Vedas. So it's actually a representation of Krishna or Vishnu. Tat it describes detached work for the sake of liberation. Tat. And Sat, it means devotees' activity for the pleasure of the Lord and his devotees. So from the beginning of creation, in 17.20, Krishna is saying that the three words Om Tat Sat is used to indicate the Supreme Lord, and these three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas. Now let's look at the 17.24, where Krishna further says that thus transcendentalists undertake sacrifices, charities, and penances, always beginning with Om, right? And that is because they know that attaining the Supreme is the ultimate purpose. So factually, the transcendental sound Omkara, although it's a combination of three letters, A, U, and has transcendental potency. And he who chants Omkara will very soon realize Omkara and Lord Vishnu is non-different. They will, right? So this is some scriptural details about it from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then one should perform sacrifice, penance, and sacrifice with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement, about which I have been talking a lot today. And the absolute truth in 17.26 and 27, Krishna says, is the objective of devotional service. It is indicated by the word Sat. Sat is the objective. So these works of sacrifice, penance, and charity are all performed to please the Supreme Lord, O son of Pritha. And there are a lot of scriptural references. Then in 17.28, Krishna says, but sacrifices, austerities, and charity, they're all wonderful things. But any one of them, if you perform without faith in the Lord, Krishna says, O son of Pritha, regardless of whatever they are asat. And they are useless, both in this life and in the next. So if you don't dovetail anything you do with the Lord of the universe, then anything you do, it will be actually useless. This is, I wish somebody had said all this earlier. In that case, we would have learned to just off, and you would have had so much of peace. The moment you realize that nothing really belongs to me, it's all Krishna's. The moment you realize that I am not his body, I am his soul. The moment you realize that Krishna is our father, mother, grandson, and everything, and he loves us. And all that he wants from us is, is that we offer everything to him with love. That's all. When we realize all this, it's so different. Life takes on a different color. So with that, we come to the end of chapter 17. I'm well in time. I thought I'm getting late. So we began the first verse with Arjuna's inquiry about unauthorized worship and Lord Krishna's answer about the three modes which determines one's faith and worship. And then he talks about the food in three modes, sacrifices in three modes, the three kinds of austerity, of body, of mind, and of, what was that? Of thoughts, of body, mind, and action, I think, austerity. And then there are the three, charity in the three modes, and then Om Tat Sat, that is sacrifice, charity, and austerity should be offered to the Supreme. So I'll just go back to check the austerity, three kinds. Austerity of speech, austerity of mind, body, and speech. Those are the three austerities. Sorry about that. So now we are in the, tomorrow is going to be the last chapter. In chapter 1 to 6, we have gone through Karma Yoga and action of the platform of knowledge and performance of actions, both in Bhakti and Karma. Both he has actually touched upon. Then we studied mainly Bhakti, and then we studied Jnana and perfection of Jnana, which is Bhakti. Now we do a quick revision. In chapter 1, we studied about the preparation of war and Arjuna's doubts. We looked at the three kinds of people, that is Dhritarashtra in the mode of ignorance, Duryodhana in the mode of passion, and Arjuna in the mode of goodness. In chapter 2, we saw how Arjuna's all doubts were cleared by Krishna so clearly, and then Krishna talks about I am not the body, I am the soul. And then he talks about Sthita Prajna, who is a person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. And then we have come to, so this is in chapter 2, how he gives all the answers. Actually, chapter 2 is a summary of the whole Gita. It touches upon all the different kinds of yogas also. And then in chapter 3, we have studied about Krishna's confusion about renunciation, and we get a clear idea of what is renunciation. We studied about the yoga ladder from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga, and then we studied a very important thing: beware of lust. We studied who is the main enemy. Why is it that we keep on doing wrong things although we know that it is wrong? It's because of lust. And Krishna talks about where the lust lies in our body, in our mind, in our intelligence. He talks about how we have to tackle that lust. Then this was chapter 3. And then we came to, and then we also studied about cycle of sacrifice, which was amazing, because we learned that actually the austerities that we perform and whatever we are offering to the different demigods or directly to the Lord himself, it pleases the Lord and demigods, and that is what bestows upon us all the rain and the grain and everything. So whenever we are suffering, that means, somewhere there is a problem with austerities. In fact, long back, in the earlier days, people used to blame the king if there is no rain, because they used to feel that something is wrong with the duties and sacrifices are performed is not all right. And then we think, when we are studying, the schools teach us this is all just, superstition, or they say this is myth. They don't realize that there is actually a spiritual science behind it. Every thought, every word, the kind of sacrifices we do, the japa that we sit and do, how much of massive influence it has on ourselves, on the people around us. We don't realize that till we read the scriptures, until we start having faith in the scriptures. Then we studied the chapter 4, which is a transcendental yoga, in which Krishna talks about his position as Krishna. He gives us a history, how he actually taught the Gita to the sun god first. And then Arjuna asks, how come you're talking about, you taught sun god when you are my contemporary? And how he explains that I know all the births you don't know. Like Krishna is the one who gives us remembrance and forgetfulness and knowledge. And then we learn about how sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge, and how we learn a lot about the process of transcendental knowledge in chapter 4. In chapter 5, we learn once more about karma yoga, how to form. It's about doing duties in the transcendental, platform, how to perform nishkama karma yoga. And then he talks about that we are not the doer. There are 3 doers. These are all very revealing, actually. Even now, I don't know how much my life has transformed, and my whole understanding has changed. Earlier, I would think, oh, I'm the reason for this and that, and now I realize that I'm not really the only doer. If you think that everything bad happened because of you, that means actually you're very egotic, egotistic. You're thinking that you are responsible for everything good happened even then, because you're never responsible. There are 3 doers. And then we learn about, in fact, in chapter 18, tomorrow, we will learn about the 5 things which impact any action that takes place is based on 5 things. So it is very, very, wrong and boastful to think that I am the one who's causing anything to happen, because 5 different factors will cause anything to happen. These are all very beautiful, facts we learn from the Gita. Then we learn about liberation by focus on super soul by Ashtanga Yoga. One verse, actually, just that 27 and 28, because the next chapter will be entirely on Ashtanga Yoga. And then in chapter 5, we learned this beautiful verse where we learn Krishna is a supreme enjoyer. He's a supreme control. Bhokta Ram Yajna Tapasa. And he says that I am the Suhridam. I'm the only well-wishing friend. And in chapter 6, we learn about Ashtanga Yoga. We learned that our mind is our enemy, or our mind only is our enemy or our friend. There is no other enemy or friend. Actually, our mind is the only enemy or friend. It is the one who is causing us disaster or taking us to what is beneficial for us. Then we learn Ashtanga Yoga, and Arjuna says, I can't do this. And then he also asks, what if we are trying to do a spiritual, journey? In our spiritual journey, we are struggling, and neither do we reach spiritual destination, and we have not even achieved anything in the material world. What happens? And Krishna says that the spiritual knowledge, there is nothing which goes waste. Everything is carried forward from wherever you stopped. It's not like you're studying in a medical college and you have to start, you have to start from ABC in the next birth. In the spiritual world, the knowledge you gain wherever you are, You will continue there. Even after the whole demolition of the material world, it gets non-manifested, and Brahma's night comes, and the main place when when the whole Brahma's life is over, again there is one non-manifest stage where everything goes. Again, when you come back, you start from wherever you have reached. So wherever you have reached is really important. So every birth, we try our best to make it our last, so that we don't have to get stuck in this life after death thing, or in this whole manifestation non-manifestation thing of the material world. Then we learn about the ladder. We learned that karma khanda is the lowest, where people only are looking for some fruitive results: karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga. And then we learned in chapter 7 about importance of hearing Krishna's done. Here the bhakti chapter start. So he talks about his energy, so that we can think about him more. Then he talks about what kind of people will accept Krishna. It's so beautiful. And he says there are 4 kind of people who will never accept Krishna. And then he talks about demigod worship. What kind of people will take to demigod worship? Who are the impersonalists? What is there that Krishna doesn't tell us in the Gita actually? Then in chapter 8, Krishna will, Arjuna asks those 8 tough questions, in which the most important is death. So this is a death chapter, where we come to know that our whole ultimate purpose is to prepare ourselves for death. In the human body, we stop running after food, eating, mating, sleeping, defending. We realize our purpose and we start working towards it. So then in chapter 9, which is again very beautiful, we learn about Krishna says, I'm going to reveal this very special knowledge to you. And he gives Aishwarya Jnana, where he again talks about his different, energies. He talks about the different types of worshippers. He talks about the glories of Krishna Bhakti. And then we learn about, in chapter 12, it's very nice. We learn about this is in chapter 10. Chapter 10, we learn this Chatushloki. So we learned the prayojana, the goal, the abhideya, and the sambandha, the awareness of our relationship with Krishna. So these are the 3 things we had gone through in chapter 10. In chapter 11, we went through the universal form, where after listening to all the theory, Arjuna wants to see the practical. Yes. So then, Arjuna, the Lord shows the universal form, and that's a beautiful chapter where he sees the past and the future, and he sees everything, that he wanted to see, he desires to see. And Krishna at the end says, just be my instrument. And then we have beautiful Arjuna's prayers. Chapter 12 is my all-time favorite, where Krishna talks about bhakti is above impersonalism. And then he talks very beautifully about the progressive stages of devotion, starting from the highest, which is Ananya Bhakti. And then the next is Sadhana Bhakti. And then he goes on to say Nishkama Karma. And so he gives us this, and then he goes back up and he says, if you can't do even this, do at least do good, be good. And then he says, okay, if you can't think of me or you can't do anything related to me, and he gives you 3 further stages without Krishna, at least do that. For some people, at least go ahead and do that. Just be good, do good, do charity, be nice, don't hurt, and do unto others and all that. Don't do to others what you don't want to be done to, what not. And then they go to heavenly planets and whatever. So slowly, they will come to devotion. So he gives them all the different steps. And the best is in 12.13 to 20, where he tells us what are the qualities that he loves. He says in the devotee, these are the qualities. You just learn of these 12.30 to 20 and try to get these qualities. I think, we should do that. We must please Krishna. So these were the steps. And then we went to the chapter 13. In chapter 13, the Jnana chapters begin. And then Krishna talks about what is Jnana, what is Gyeya, what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragya. And, those, what is Prakriti, what is Purushas, all these things he explains very nicely. And then in the chapter 14, we learn about the trap, Maya. And we learn what are the 3 modes of material nature, how they have a race, action in the modes, and what is pure life. Chapter 16 is about the goodness, the badness. Chapter 15 was about the tree. And in 17 today, we have done the entire series of all the way of how we should conduct our life, so that we can move from, if we are in Tamogun, move to Rajogun. If we are in Rajogun in any aspect of our life, move to Sattvagun. And then now don't stop there. Try to achieve the Shuddha Sattva, so that we can go back to Krishna. And tomorrow we'll be doing chapter 18, where we will learn about the modes of nature. There's a whole summary of the Bhagavad Gita, what kind of a person is ideal worker, how to get love for Godhead, and the end result. So with that, we come to an end. I have actually revised the whole Bhagavad Gita, and tomorrow we'll be doing a quick revision through Krishna's own words in chapter 18. Vanchakalpatarubhyasta kripachindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'm truly grateful to all those of you who have stayed with me, and I hope you will be there with me tomorrow as we end and with the last chapter. Is there any reflection that anybody would like to share? Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to
I
share?
just had a request.
Yes, Ankur Prabhu.
So, when you are giving the lecture, you have a lot of good lessons in between. But when you're sending the material, those slides are not there. It is very useful, because it makes life very easy to understand that. So is there any way you can share the complete packs?
Okay, Prabhuji. I'll just share it to the admin of the group and ask them to share it. Actually, the slides which I am sharing are from different classes I have attended. So I have taken screenshots from a number of lessons which I have been attending, not only from ISKCON
Yes,
Bangalore, but wherever else I found, material, I have been putting it. I think they're related. And I will just send my slides to, you want all the chapters or just today's chapter?
very useful. Very useful. Thank you.
Just today's, Prabhuji, or all chapters?
Yes, that will be very useful if you can do that.
Okay.
Because, we will finish in 18 days. This is for the lifetime. I just want
Yes,
to keep
Prabhuji.
revising it, So,
Yes, please continue, associating yourself with devotees somehow or the other, Prabhuji. Otherwise, it's very easy to forget after 18 days, what is our purpose. We really need devotee association and keep in touch with books and through chanting and just do whatever, we should try to make it achieve our goal of human life. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom. Actually, I observed that the course presentation. Okay, this is what Ankur Prabhu was saying. Sure, Prabhuji, I'll do that. And Janani Mataji, yeah, you were also previously non-vegetarian. You stopped it intentionally. Yes, Mataji, even me. I was totally born into a family where non-vegetarian was happening, and I just was. It just happened. Even till for some time when I used to go visit my children, they would say, "No, mommy, when you're here with us, you must have." And then eventually they realize that mommy means it. She's not going to have it. She won't have it. So it just happened, if so I don't feel any necessity to tell people that you have to be a vegetarian or anything, because I know that when you start reading and start understanding, it's a very natural process. It just happens. Everything that needs to happen will happen on its own. There's no struggle. You just need to struggle to chant, to remember Krishna, be in association of devotees. That is all you need to, the ABCD, you have to be in association, read the books, keep chanting, and just be mindful of the diet. Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. Yes, Janani Mataji. True, the whole family event. Actually, I'm in mind. The whole family hasn't. So, not in my. I couldn't do that yet. Maybe, if I can just be in a devotee association and maybe help someone else, because my family, I'm not able to do anything, Janani Mataji. So Hare Krishna, let me end today's chapter. Thank you so much for your association. It means a lot to me. And we'll have our last chapter tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.